My other thought is that maybe the reason that they're not pushing PvP as much as they could, or as much as they have in the past, is because they know that the like community is very important to the game, and the lack of toxicity in the community is something that is, you know, very intentional by design, right? Like that they're worried that the more you invite PvP into it, like you said at the very beginning of our PvP discussion, it's about pew-pewing and but it's also an inherently competitive, kind of aggressive thing, and maybe they don't want to emphasize it that much.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think we should give our community more credit. It's
I
like
agree,
we know where it, it's pew time and where it's time to release your inner beast and go pew other players. And like when you get out of it, you're still a really nicely dressed Mikote dancing in Limsalam's head. You're suddenly not in the front line or the feast anymore, and those feelings don't matter anymore in a way.
Yeah.
So I want to believe that that's how people perceive PvP and FF.
I hope so too, but if you look at like Mythic Plus, right? Like Mythic Plus has that inherent competitive,
yeah.
Just look at dungeon runs in Warcraft versus dungeon runs in FF, and how different players treat each other in those spaces. In World of Warcraft,
I don't think it's about the players though. I think it's exclusively about the in-game system, because the in-game system is so punishing.
Right.
The timer and the affixes that basically make the community turn on that one person who messes something up within the run. Like that is pretty much what creates that toxicity. It's the high stakes of queuing into a dungeon with your own key that you worked so very hard for, and then someone makes a mistake and you don't know what to do. Like you just want to yell at them and kick them out of the group, which you normally do.
That's exactly why I don't think it's the people, right? I think you're right.
Yeah,
it's the system that corrupts the people.
Yes, definitely.
But like if you put in a MOBA or you put in a Crystalline Conflict, even if you've got that one person that's dead weight in that group and they ruin your win, does that then perpetuate in that PvP
I think you need
to
lower the stakes. I think currently in Final Fantasy XIV, the stakes are your time invested into queuing for that type of content. If you were to queue into Crystalline, and if Crystalline isn't popular enough, and if it takes you 40 minutes of doing nothing else and not being able to queue for any other type of content, and if you queue, your stake is your time. It's not the key, it's not some sort of reward. You just care about those 40 minutes that you spent waiting to get there, and that's why you're turning on that person. So if only the queue times were shorter, people could be like, okay, this was a kind of a failed 5-minute run, I'll just do another one. But you can't do another one. At best, you can do one frontline run a day, because the queue during the night and early mornings, at least here on Light on Lich, is over 30 minutes. At best, if you manage to luck into finishing your frontline roulette, it takes you more than 30 minutes to queue if you're not playing during prime times. And that's what's really punishing about it. If they solve that problem, I don't think there will be these negative feelings, because like it's the same with like duty roulettes and other dungeons as well. Like you have a less than 5 minutes queue, and if you wipe, so what? Like no one's really stressed out because they just queued in. They instantly queued into a dungeon, and they don't feel like their time's been wasted because of that. And I feel like there's an enormous potential. There's so many people within the Final Fantasy community, and if only that type of content was more approachable and made people queue more, they would solve a lot of these problems. And I honestly don't think that these feelings would be something that like, I don't know, corrupts the community.
Right. I can't recall in Crystalline Conflict, is there a ranking system? Like, is there a are there ladders? Are there diamond league?
Into it that much, to be honest.
Or is it just the battle? Is it just the battle pass series season?
I think that I'm don't take my word for it because I haven't looked into it that much. But I think every single Final Fantasy content has some sort of way for you to check where you're at. Even the front lines, have a list of I don't know, people at the end of the front line to see who got the most kills or whatever. Even the Verminion tournaments that I don't know if you play Verminion. No,
Play.
Verminion.
No, I haven't got into that yet.
Okay.
I've started the tutorial, but I haven't got into that fully yet.
Okay, well, there's tournaments anyway, and if they have a ranking system, if Triple Triad has a ranking system for the tournaments or whatever, like I don't see why there wouldn't be at least some sort of way to rank people to like when they do that type of content. I'm gonna have to look deeper into that.
Well, my fear is there, right? Is that if the reward at the end of doing this is just how many experience points you get in your battle pass, that's not very punishing if you lose. You could still have your hero ball moment and feel good, but still lose, but then still get your points. Like that's one thing I think is that they can make that feel decent. But my fear is, thinking about like League and the toxicity in like League, a lot of it is like, don't mess up my solo queue. I'm doing this for my ranking, but other like 4 other players can have an impact on my ranking.
Yeah.
Don't mess up my solo queue, is a big thing. That would be my fears if you
still don't understand that. Like, how is that solo?
Yeah, well, it's not, but you're not queuing as a full team, right?
Yeah, so, I get that.
But I think that's where the problem with like Mythic Plus runs goes is that other people's performance has an impact on your rank, on that little badge that makes you so proud, and that's where a lot of that frustration and anger probably comes from.
People in World of Warcraft turn towards their own guildies. In Final Fantasy, you have a very open community. You can have your FC, but you also have your friend list. You also have your like link shells. You have people around you that are willing to do content. In World of Warcraft, you only exclusively want to do content with the people you trust.
Yeah.
When you have to go through Party Finder in World of Warcraft, it's a very desperate feeling to not have anyone and to put your key into the hands of strangers and be like, please don't destroy this for me. You just really want to trust your players, and it kind of just destroys these opportunities for you to meet someone new through content. At most, like the people that you will remember, like the people who you randomly like queue with or whatever, are the people who mess up your runs. You normally don't like add people who do well. They go their own way and you never meet them again. And I think that's one of the reasons why the communities are so close. You want to have like a group of very good people who are always available and who you're going to do things with, and they will all blame each other, but they will all continue to play with one another because they're a community. So
right.
That's how it works.
Well, I mean, Preach has that thing where he says like, how do you know a Mythic Plus run's going to end in disaster? Someone says hi at the beginning of the run. Because you're not there to talk to each other, you're there to get business done, and it's so true. But I'm really I didn't realize how into PvP you were, and I haven't been able to have a really good discussion about PvP with a guest. So thank you, because like it always feels like that thing that's like just a me thing, and like everyone's else like, oh, I like the story, or I like dungeons, or this and that.
I like the story.
Me too.
Wrong,
me
but
too.
I also like to pew. So
right. To me, that's the one missing link in Final Fantasy in terms of what there is to do in the end game, because the casual side of things, the housing side of things, island sanctuaries, I think is going to be awesome. There's so many fun things to do. If you want to do hardcore raiding, it is there for you, in Savage and Extremes. Like you have those options available for you in those traditional end game type of things, but then you have so many other things: Chocobo Racing, Verminion, Triple Triad. Hell, if you want to play Mahjong, you could just be a Mahjong champion.
Say it. I don't even know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, Mahjong.
Okay, now I know. Thanks.
And there's so many different things you could do, but the one thing that's missing that I think World of Warcraft has is a PvP community and a PvP scene.
Definitely.
And I think that's the one thing that's needed, I think, in FF. But I do have my fears that it might create this like toxic subculture. But my fears for myself as I negotiate this in my own mind, I think because so many systems are separate from one another in Final Fantasy, the end game is very modular, I guess is the best term for it, where rating's over here and it doesn't affect your PvP, and your PvP's over here and it doesn't affect your Chocobo Racing, and your Chocobo Racing's over here and it doesn't affect this. that there's not the synergy between all of it, where you get like the raiders in World of Warcraft who maybe there's a piece of PvP gear that randomly is better than, you know, for something like that. So you get these people that feel like they have to PvP to get the best item, and that's just never going to be the case in FF. So
really disappointed with the PvP system in World of Warcraft, because I'm a huge fan of Battlegrounds, and that is something that got me into PvP at first. But the thing about Battlegrounds is, you probably know it since you've played World of Warcraft, but some people might not. Battlegrounds is very similar to Frontlines. You have less people queuing, and you have like Alliance versus Horde. But at the same time, it is the content that really attracts me. I really love Battlegrounds, but at the same time, when you are done gearing your character with a battleground, you are still not reaching that end game. It's like a B tier content that you can't really do much with. But if you want to do competitive battlegrounds, you are just not able to do that, because first of all, the competitive battleground system is a 10v10 in WoW, and mostly those groups will be pre-made from larger World of Warcraft PvP guilds. Or if they happen to be looking for a new member, you already have to have a high rating or have to have gear that if you just want to do PvP, you have no other way of obtaining. And normally you can't really get yourself into a 10v10. That's why I'm really looking forward to Crystalline, and I do believe that having an influx of more casual players will not create the situation where the casual players just can't get into that 5v5 content, because the stakes are not as high, because you're like, what's the rating called? I can't even remember. In WoW,
arena
like,
rating.
Yeah, like that thing.
Battlegrounds rating, I guess. And
yes.
then there's Raider IO is the thing for the PvE side of things.
Yeah, I meant like exclusively the battlegrounds, because those 10v10 battlegrounds are the ones who will give you the currency to buy yourself the best gear. So if you don't happen to get yourself into a 10v10 group that will win consistently, or at least win somewhat, you just can't get the best gear, and it's very hard to get into that type of content. And I feel like 10 people for a coordinated attack is a little bit too much. So I don't know, I always felt like cutting that number in half would be perfect, and now there's Crystalline, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I've got hopes for it. I'm really hopeful for it. I hope that it's good. I hope that people participate, because I would really like to make content for it as well. So yeah. Hey, thanks for listening to this clip from the Popo Pub Final Fantasy XIV podcast. If you enjoyed it, I'd really appreciate it if you could like, comment, and subscribe, as it really helps the channel out. Lolly ho, and peace out, friend.